Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, I've got a 2002, I'm reading from a quick script here, 2002 Ford F-150 with a 5.4 liter. Customer came to us and said that they had a check engine light on, no drivability issues, and they had it scanned at the parts store, and the parts store told them they needed an oxygen sensor. So they sold them an oxygen sensor, brought it to a shop, had them put the oxygen sensor in, cleared a code. Drove around for a little while, about, according to this piece of paper, about 150 miles, and the light came back on. This is the problem I have with people who don't understand, and they just automatically assume they can fix stuff when they don't understand how something works. If you don't understand how something works, you really should research it and try to figure it out. It's going to help you. Trust me, it's going to save you aggravation too. Here's what this paper says, and I want you to read this. This is the code. System 2 lean bank 2. Most likely solution. Repair oxygen sensor wiring. Anybody else see a problem with that? I do. It's super rare, almost unheard of, to see oxygen sensor wiring be the cause of this. Now, I don't know if that's the old sheet, the original sheet. I mean, it doesn't have a date on it that I can see. Oh yeah, it does. January 2nd. So, yeah. This is the original sheet. But it's got a check engine light on again. I'd be willing to bet it's a lean code again, because a lean code normally is a vacuum leak, not an oxygen sensor. If you had a wiring issue to an oxygen sensor, you'd probably have other codes, not a lean code. So that's why I don't trust stuff like that when a parts store scans it, because the parts store is just using a generic code reader, not even a scanner, a code reader. So, and I've shown you that before, how sometimes a code reader misses certain codes, manufacturer specific codes especially. It sometimes, not all the time, sometimes it won't give it to you. So you don't know. You could be fixing one problem when that's not actually the problem. You could have something else causing it. If this code is the same code now, I can pretty much guarantee you it's not going to be an oxygen sensor. Let's scan it for codes and see what it's got. Alright. So, I'm not worried about all the other systems. Let's go to memory codes. System 2 lean, bank 1, bank 2. Okay. Well, like I said, pretty much guaranteed it's not an oxygen sensor. So, money got thrown away on an oxygen sensor that wasn't needed, most likely. So, let's pull this thing inside, and let me start checking this thing for a vacuum leak. These are known for the PCV line that runs from the back of the intake all the way over to the PCV valve. They're known for like basically deteriorating and creating a vacuum leak. I'm not saying that's what it is. It is a possibility. Other possibilities are a dirty mass air meter. So let's start looking at this and see what we got. Okay, so we're outside and underneath the hood, and I got some brake clean here. The reason I'm doing this outside is if you've ever smelled this get burned through an exhaust system or through the combustion process and then out the exhaust, it'll take your breath away. So that's why I do it outside. But what we're going to do is we're going to listen for a change in the motor. I haven't checked anything yet. I just only opened up the hood. So here, a lot of times, like I said, I've seen that PCV hose there crack towards the back. You can't even see it, unfortunately. But what I'm going to try to do is of course this brake clean is going all over the place. Hang on a second. That's absolutely not any better. Great brake clean. Alright, let me change the tip on this and see if I can't get something better out of it. Alright, so this should be better. This is a different tip. And I got this out of another brake clean that was in the garbage. I'm not physically seeing any changes. Another place to check too is the bellow here. Make sure it's not cracked. It doesn't appear to be. Alright, there is nothing obvious on this motor. I'm spraying down where the intake meets the head, somewhere in that area. So a lot of times you can spray stuff like this and it'll eventually wick its way down somewhere, and all of a sudden you'll hear it change. And I hear nothing. Alright, one other thing we can do. Hang on one second. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at fuel trip, short term, the percentage. 1 and 2, bank 1 and bank 2. It's adding a little bit of fuel. That's not an incredible amount. It's really not an incredible amount. It's kind of going all over the board. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spray the brake clean, and you're going to watch the screen. I want to see if anything changes. Because sometimes it can be so minor. The short term will change drastically if it picks up a vacuum. Went to -4, -6. When I'm spraying the back of the motor there, but I'm not convinced that that's actually what's happening. Yeah, I'm really not convinced that that's what's happening. On this side. I am really not convinced. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean the throttle body and I'm going to clean the mass air meter. I've seen that all too often where that creates problems. So, oh, wait a minute. Did I just see something? Yes, I do see something. Hold on. I don't know if that's creating a problem right now. That might create a problem. Not really changing it much there, but that's a problem. That is definitely a problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this hose, and then we're going to clean the mass air and throttle body. So let's do that. Alright, so here's the hose that I took off, and as you see, it is absolutely deteriorated on the inside there. So I'm confident under a high vacuum scenario, like acceleration or whatever, this is probably drawing in unmetered air. So we're going to replace it, and we have fuel line here, fuel hose. You want to use fuel hose because it's thick. See how it's got the reinforcement in there? You want to do that so it doesn't collapse on itself. Of course, you can get the forward line if they even make it still, but we're going to use this. This will be fine. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to clean the mass air meter and the throttle body. Now, one thing is you're going to want to put the hose on here off the vehicle. You don't want to do it while you're on that purge solenoid, because you could possibly break the purge solenoid, because the line getting on here is quite tough. Alright, so there we go. The hose is on and in place. I loosened up the clamps already. I pulled the air temperature sensor out of the way. When you're pulling this hose off, the air inlet off, be careful so you don't like crack these hoses. So a lot of times these hoses can become brittle, these plastic ones. So just be mindful of that. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, so with that out of the way, we'll do your air box. And there's your mass air meter. Now you notice it said K&N on it. Obviously it doesn't have a K&N in it. And that's another thing too. When you have a K&N or any of those oiled filters, a lot of times the oil will contaminate the mass air meter. So all we're going to do is we're going to spray it where it sits. We're not going to bother pulling the whole thing apart. And then we're going to give a quick clean to the throttle body. All right, so they're real simple. Use some kind of electrical contact cleaner. I use this. I've had people say in the past, oh, now you've ruined it because this does this, that, the other thing to it. I've used this for years and years and years. Never had an issue. Don't use brake clean. Brake clean will leave a film. So just give it a really good hosing out like that, and that'll be fine. So now we're going to move on to the throttle body. Okay, so now for the throttle body cleaning. As you see, I got that back assembled. Grab your wife's toothbrush, just don't tell her. We use throttle body and air intake cleaner. You can use carburetor cleaner, that works just as good. And basically spray it out, and then also spray your brush. And then you're going to get in there and you're going to scrub it. The problem is I can't film this at the same time because I got to hold the blade open. So I'll show you when I'm done. All right, and there you see, it's pretty clean. You're never going to get it perfect unless you take the thing off and you sit there and scrub the daylights out of it. There's really no need to. Now, when you go to restart this thing, and I'll show you, or any vehicle where you do this to, it's going to be flooded on the cleaner that you put in there. So you may have to hold your foot to the floor. It may run rough, stuff like that, but just be mindful of that. So if you're changing spark plugs, do this first, start it, and then change the plugs. Because I hate to contaminate new plugs. Not that you contaminate it and it stays like that, it usually burns right off, but just what I like to do. Okay, so there we go, everything's all back together. Now, like I said, it's going to chuggle. It's going to be partially flooded out. So, hang on a second, let me climb in this thing. I want to readjust the seat, and can't do it with me sitting in it. All right, so here we go. Put my foot. Like I said, that is to be expected. That is perfectly normal. So now let's go in and let's clear everything out. We're going to take this thing on a road test. Clear codes. Will this clear with the engine running? I don't recall. It says off for running, so. Okay. Yeah, see, they're in memory. See, sometimes, even though they're in memory, sometimes you got to shut it down. Sometimes on Fords, I've seen it where you got to disconnect the battery for it to come completely out. Yeah, it'll stay there. Yeah, see, it showed up on the other end, but it doesn't show up on this end for memory codes. All right, let's just take it for a road test, see what she feels like. All right, so the road test went well, and one thing I neglected to show you guys before was long-term fuel trim was up around 1920. Let me show you now, just after going on that road test. So we're up around 7, 8, something like that. The AC is on, so it's kicking it a little bit. See that? That's because it's demanding a little more fuel because the AC kicked on. Let me see if I shut this off. Will that change anything? It might. But during the road test, it was hanging out around 6 the whole time during the road test. So I'm good with this. I'm pretty confident it was all... Just dropped my scanner. I'm pretty confident it was all that hose. Could have been some buildup on the mass air, but figure I'm right there, may as well clean it. I'm going to say that this thing's going to be good. So, all right. that hose was definitely a problem. But we're going to find out. It definitely didn't have any vacuum leaks. You know, worst comes to worst, what I'm going to have to do is I have a smoke machine at home. I'll have to bring that into work, and then we're going to have to smoke it if the code should happen to come back. I don't think it will. I've seen too many of these things, and I've worked on too many of these Ford F-150s, and that usually straightens them out. But like I said, usually the problem is that PCV hose. So if you got one of these, check that PCV hose. But that one's definitely good on this one. And a lot of times you can actually hear them sucking air. So anyway, all right. Hopefully you got something out of that. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching. Got one real quick after the road test. Just wanted to show you this. Pending codes. No codes present. Like I said, I'm confident we're good. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.